What do you mean there's no bottom to this? You think things could get worse from here? I mean, look, I'm just playing the
Way,
devil.
way worse. It's only potentially just started. Way, way worse.
Tesla's down 40% since December, but it's going to get
They could
worse.
be down 75%. They could be down 90%. They could go bust. I mean, they've got a lot of cash.
It's the second day after Liberation Day when the reciprocal tariffs were announced by President Donald Trump. Markets are still in turmoil. The stock market is down today on Friday. The S&P is down about 5%. The Nasdaq is down about 4.5%. Uh, Gold is down. Bitcoin is interestingly up 2%. We'll talk about that. And this is the second day in a row in which we saw continued volatility. What's next for the markets? Well, our next guest has been calling for a market correction for quite some time. He is Clem Chambers, founder of ANewFN. Clem, welcome back to the show. Well, you've been right, but I think what took everybody by surprise is how volatile the markets could be after tariffs were implemented. We know tariffs are coming. Why are people still surprised?
Well, I mean, I think the major thing that you have to realize is no one's seen this. This is really most people who are in the market have never seen anything like this. You have to go back to the 70s to see anything like this. And, they couldn't believe that A would happen and that B could happen and C could happen and they could all happen at once. So they've been sort of like, no, no, he doesn't mean it. No, no, it's not going to happen. Oh, no, it's all going to pan out. Oh, they're playing 3D chess and all that stuff. And if you're like me, old and a bit cynical, you go, no, it's not. And it's a trifecta of terrible things. Now, actually, not any one of them would necessarily be bad, would not necessarily do terrible things if the tempo of trying to do them was such that they could be digested. But you can't do 4 years of deep strategic change in 4 weeks or whatever it is, 12 weeks. It's too fast, right? And, maybe you could get away with reorganizing the government and sacking 15% of the public servants over a year and a half, maybe, and then maybe putting in something with tariffs for another 18 months, and then maybe rattling your saber at the Europeans to kind of, gird their loins to defend themselves over 4 years in total, but not in a few weeks. It's the tempo that turns these difficult things into utter crisis and chaos. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing complete chaos because the tempo of it is just too much. It's just overwhelming, and it's these things intersect, right? If you take Doge, right, they're going to cut $1 trillion out of the government budget. Well, that money goes around the economy, and it also half of it will go back through tax. So
Mhm.
it doesn't matter whether you give it to, scammers and incompetent people and idiots. It's still going to go into, they still have haircuts, those people. They still buy cars. They still go shopping. That is money out of the economy coming soon. So that's 3%, 3% of GDP down. That's called a recession, right? And then you put tariffs, which are going to hurt another 2 or 3%. So now you're looking at 6% of GDP hit. Well, you can't expect the market not to crash. Couldn't expect the market not to crash on even one of them, let alone two. And then you go around and threaten to invade Greenland and Canada and pull out of NATO and go around and insulting pretty much every international leader on the planet's surface. Markets go up with stability. Risk assets become more valuable when risk goes down. When risk goes up, asset values go down. So you put all these things in at one time. Well, they say they're revolutionary, but a revolutionary government is a terrible thing. The French Revolution, and they fancy themselves as sort of as powerful as that. 40% of the population of France died because of that. Revolutions normally put a lot of things to the sword, and most of them good things. So, a revolutionary American government, that's about the worst possible thing you could possibly have for the market. So the question is, does anyone think it's not going to go down 25% now? Well, is it going to go down 30%? Is it going to go down 50%? .com was 75%, and so was 1929. So the total potential downside is a 75% fall. And that's just, that will reshape the world, frankly. And we are potentially in that mood now. And that is, there's no bottom to this at the moment. I can't say, I'm out. I'm in cash. I'm completely in cash. And I posted on my Twitter, Clem Chambers at Clem Chambers, on the 4th of March, Trump crash question mark. I'm going risk off. So, I'm sat there and I feel sorry for everybody that isn't out.
What do you mean there's no bottom to this? You think things could get worse from here? I mean, look, I'm just playing the
Way,
devil.
way worse. It's only potentially just started. Way, way worse. Go listen to what Vance said at that security conference in Europe a few weeks ago. He said, deal with Russia. We're dealing with our concerns in Asia. What does that mean? Think about that. Think about the implications of that
Is he
on its
aban is
own
he
right.
is the US de facto abandoning NATO right now?
Well, I mean,
I mean, not officially, of course,
certainly
but
feels like it. And if you look at all the defense stocks, even though Poland's just bought some jets, if you look at the defense stocks, as soon as Trump gets in, all those defense stocks go that way.
this
And
is
as soon as Vance speaks, all the European defense stocks go that way. So, oh, of course, nobody knew. Nobody knew. No one's going to be buying America. Well, it's going to be difficult to spend billions on American equipment in Europe when you're being cut loose.
Before we continue with the video, let me tell you about the importance of protecting your privacy through VPNs. Using the internet without a VPN is like carrying a see-through backpack. Everyone can see what you're up to. ISPs, advertisers, even hackers. They're all watching, collecting your data, and selling it off. That's why I use today's sponsor, Private Internet Access, VPN, or PIA. It encrypts your traffic through an encrypted tunnel, hides your real IP address, and keeps your browsing private. Whether you're on public Wi-Fi or just don't want your ISP tracking you, PIA keeps your data locked down. If you're traveling, logging into your bank, or making payments on an unprotected network, you're at risk. It's also great for bypassing geo blocks like some finance services for streaming content. If your favorite shows like The Office isn't streaming in a particular country that you're in, on Netflix, you can use PIA. Switch to servers in 91 plus countries and 50 US states to access the full library instead of a fraction. PIA has a proven no logs policy, unlimited devices, and is 83% off, just $2.03 a month, plus 4 extra months free using the link in the description or scan the QR code here. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's completely free. Go to piavpn.com/DavidLin to get started. Again, link down below or scan the QR code. Okay, this is an article I told you about offline. The EU tells the public to hold 72 hours of emergency supplies. A friend of mine sent this article to me, actually. He lives in Spain. They're doing this right now as we speak. March 26th, so about a week ago, Europe should enhance stockpiling of critical equipment and encourage the public to maintain sufficient supplies for at least 72 hours in case of emergencies. What are these emergencies? Natural disasters, cyber attacks, geopolitical crises, including the possibility of armed aggression against EU countries. First of all, EU countries, most of them are part of NATO. So any armed aggression means an armed aggression on the United States. This would have been unheard of like a year ago. People weren't doing this a year ago, but now all of a sudden people are afraid of getting attacked. First of all, attacked by whom?
Well, obviously, you've got to wonder where this news article's come from. Okay, Reuters, which is kind of a semi-state communication channel, yeah, and governments are saying it. So they are obviously concerned, and they're not going to say, well, we're going to get attacked by Russia tomorrow, because that would be somewhat inflammatory, wouldn't it?
Right.
But it's there in that sentence, isn't it? And, if you've got America saying, oh, we're not going to support you, well, and Putin is really as far off the rails as some people think he is, well, now's his time, isn't it? He's got to go now, hasn't he? Or is it going to be too late? You see, one of the good pieces of news of what's happened is Europe is now going to be forced to become the definitive superpower because there are more Europeans than there are Americans, and the GDP per head is very similar. So if you get cut loose, i.e., see, the American strategy has been to make Europe dependent on America by looking after the defense. Yeah. It's a very clever strategy. You make them dependent on you, and therefore they can't do without you, right? And dependency is always a bad thing, whether it's for individuals or whether it's for states. But now Trump has said, the administration has said, it's over to you guys. You deal with Putin, and we've got to deal with Asia. Work out what that means. I mean, that's almost a declaration of World War III, isn't it? So that's just one part of the memo. Right? We're going to wreck the American state. and cut $1 trillion out of the cash flow of the American economy.
Yeah.
We're going to, completely upend the whole of the global economy with tariffs, and maybe we're going to have a war, and you expect the stock market not to crash.
Well, my
And
point that I was making earlier is that is Europe, where you're currently based, is Europe afraid of the US abandoning them when it comes to an invasion or an attack by somebody, whether it be Russia
Well,
or
I mean,
somebody
right
else?
now, yes. I mean, in for a year or two, yes, but in a couple of years' time, no. I mean, what you have to understand about Russia, there's 150 million people in Russia, so it's a third of the population, and it's got a situation of about a quarter of the GDP. So you can go 3 times 4 equals 12. The economic power of Europe is 12 times that of Russia. So it can afford to spend 12 times as much money on defending itself as Russia can. So there's in a straight fight, which is about being funded, Russia is just a dwarf. And it's not a worry. But obviously, right now, when your most of your half of your defense is basically coming out of America, and they go, so sayonara, you've got a little bit of a tricky period of a couple of years. But I don't think Russia can't defeat Ukraine. So how the devil is it going to defeat France and or England and or all the other guys? It's just not a thing, right? Obviously, it'd be catastrophe, and hundreds of thousands of people would perish, and it would be the world's most awful thing. But nonetheless, it's still a risk because you have to be off your trolley to attack
Why,
Ukraine in the first place.
why is it a risk? What incentive does, let's play this out. What incentive does Russia have to attack Western Europe?
It's nothing to do with Russia. Nothing wrong with Russians. It's their leadership that's been their curse since the Middle Ages. Look, think about it this way, okay? I'm your a dictator.
Yeah.
Slightly, I've taken too much testosterone. I'm sick, and I'm a vicious old predator.
Okay.
Okay, all I care about is how many books are there about me in Amazon. And there's 4,000 about Hitler, and there's 2,500 about Stalin, and there's probably 17 about some great American president that didn't do any trouble. If you want it to be books about you, you want to go down in history, it's not good things you do. If you want to be Napoleon, if you want to be have all that history written about you, and oh yeah, rah rah rah, I want to be Genghis Khan, you've got to start acting like that.
I don't know if that's Putin's thought process, but that's an interesting perspective.
You reckon how many hundreds of thousands of people have perished because of his stupidity?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but look at this.
Hundreds of thousands of people, David, not 5,000, not hundreds of thousands of young men have perished because he wants a bit of land. And his country is empty. There's hardly anybody there. It's full of treasure. And they just want a bit more useless land. It's insanity, right? And when you're dealing on that level of insanity, you've got to understand what these people are about. They're about themselves. They don't care about anybody but themselves, and they care about their place in history. If you want a place in history, well, the people with that place in history, generally speaking, are not the sort of people you'd want to be anywhere near.
Well, just regardless of what Putin's thinking, Europe is rearming. Denmark, I'm just pulling this up as an example. Denmark is now conscripting women for military service. We do not rearm because we want war. We are rearming because we want to avoid it, said their PM.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And if Europe went wobble 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 like it did in the 1930s, then Putin would think about it. Would definitely think about it. And it's not like it's going to start, David. It's already begun. It's already happened. It's begun. The question is, does it proliferate? Does it escalate? And does it all turn into a terrible thing, or is it just going to be the horrible thing that it already is right now in Ukraine? It's an absolute abomination in Ukraine, right? And if you think that that can't spread, then I think you're very optimistic. And Europe is going to rise now because America has cut it off, emotionally, and this new administration is telling it to sort itself out, and it will. And that's really good news for Europe. The United States of Europe is on the way, and it will rise, and it will be the superpower in 10 years. It will be the superpower. And there'll be, three. There'll be China, Europe, and America. America's got to watch out for the dollar now because the euro is just as good, and it could easily the unsophisticated handling of what you've seen in America on those three fronts really is a proper risk to the dollar because you can't, all of a sudden it doesn't look like the safest place.
Okay.
and money will go to the safest place,
Speaking of safest place, what is the safest place for an investor right now, Clem?
cash.
Okay. Well, I mean that. What if you want to be in something?
Okay, you want to play this? You want to surf in the hurricane? Precious metals is the least dodgy thing to go. I mean, I think precious metals, having just bought an absolute pile of them, will probably get hurt in the next week or two because money's just going to come out of the market
Yeah.
and everything's going to fall because if you're going to make your margin calls, you sell your gold to make your margin calls, all that stuff. So there's going to be a massive negative drain of cash out of the financial markets, and that will drag everything down. But after that, then, I think the precious metals will do very well, and defense stocks will do very well, and banks will do very well, weirdly enough, and agricultural stocks will do really well. So you've got the things that will do badly are luxury goods, travel, retail probably won't do so great. So all those things that are high up the value chain, they'll all get smashed. So anybody selling Ferraris is going to have a hard time. But down at the bottom, defense stocks are going to do very well because obviously it's going to go from cold water to warm war and hopefully not to hot war. So, we're in a cold war situation now. Just listen to what Vance said at that meeting, security meeting. I can't remember which German country. I think it's Munich, wasn't it? But anyway, just listen to what he said. And it's if you want peace, you'll be terrified. It's a terrifying prospect the way that they are thinking. So defense stocks go to the moon. Commodities of certain types are going to be good. Agriculture supplies are going to be good. All the sort of stuff that does well in conflict will do well, and all the stuff that does badly will do very badly. So
Hmm.
you wouldn't want to be in Louis Vuitton, for example.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that's going to come down like a lead balloon. And all the Mag 7, they're going to get crushed, absolutely crushed.
Well, yeah, they have been getting crushed already.
No, they haven't. It's not even. You've not even started.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean? Tesla's down 40% since December, but it's going to get
They could
worse.
be down 75%. They could be down 90%. They could go bust. I mean, they've got a lot of cash,
Yeah.
but who's going to be buying a Tesla in the current environment?
Actually, it's 50% now. I'm
Yeah,
out there.
well, they could easily be 75. And you could look at Tesla and just measure Tesla as the canary in the coal mine and say, like, oh, Tesla's down 50. I wonder if Nvidia could do 50. Oh, I wonder if the other guys could do Google could do 50. Oh, I wonder if Apple could do 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Tesla's down 75% now. Oh, what about this could be, I'm not saying it is, but this could be the equivalent of a dot-com crash because the actual, yes, leave that chart there, right there, right there. So if it goes back to July 2023, how are you feeling, right? Or if it goes back to July 2022, yeah, it's $10.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't it? In this environment, what's going to stop it? What's going to change? What's going to get this to go backwards? I mean,
Well,
that's
this was before
that's why I'm so
ChatGPT.
bearish.
Yeah.
It's what who's going to deliver this miracle? Who's going to deliver salvation? Yeah, it's more likely you're going to get on Monday absolutely pandemonium, right?
Okay. Here's my, if I were to play the other side, if I were to be a betting man, Clem, I would be like, hey, I'm betting on the fact that Trump and perhaps his trading partners would rescind some of these tariffs after they've negotiated things behind closed doors or perhaps in public. Who knows? Right?
Yeah,
They've
well,
come to
that's
some
why it
sort of
didn't
agreement
collapse.
and then
That's what
boom, everything goes up again.
that was the thinking before the tariffs came in. Oh, he won't do it. He won't follow through with it. Now they've got a very
Oh
simple
no, he's going to
strategy.
follow through, but then he's going to take it back.
Well, if it follows through, where's the price next Friday? He's going to take it back on Wednesday, is he? Don't think so.
I don't know.
No, it's
I'm
not going
just
to, is
betting
he?
on some event. He's gonna at some point he's gonna take it back, right? Um,
No, that era is over. That just listen to the man talk and then compare it with politicians in the last 30 years.
yeah.
It's a new era and it's a violent era. I mean, if you take the way that they talk and they put their points across and measure that in violence, verbal violence, you'll see where this is going. Has gone. They mean it. And you know what you see, if you want to make America great again, you've got to beggar everyone else. And they're going to beggar their neighbor. That's their strategy. Bring it all back to America, have an economic iron curtain. It's all going to be great for people in America, and everyone else is going to suffer. That's the strategy. Just listen. That's what they're saying. All right.
Yeah.
So you put up tariffs and you make everybody make it in America. That's how it's all going to be rebuilt. What does that do? Just what does that do to everybody else? What happened to win-win? It's Minimax. It's beggar thy neighbor. Well, that's catastrophic if it happens. Now, the good news, not good news, the only way that this is going to turn around
Hmm.
is that the Republicans are wiped out in the midterms. And that's what I think is going to happen. So we've got another year or so of this. Yeah. And then when all the people go, hold on a minute, I voted you in, you just crushed my 401k. Oh my God. And then that Musk bloke came around and sacked my cousin. And it's all gone horribly wrong. And you're not so great after all. They will lose the midterms in a landslide. And who knows the Democrats? I mean, that they lost the last election because they're so rubbish. But that will stop this process degenerating even further in the last 2 years of this administration, and that could
Can
put
you
a bottom on it.
can you think of any good that would come long term from what they're doing now? I mean,
Well,
Trump is saying he's laying the foundation for America's future after he's out of the office. I mean, what's he doing
we're
here?
certainly laying the future of America, laying the grounds for America's future, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a particularly good one. So, the point is, if you take the mindset that they have,
Yeah.
they're looking back at a great America of, say, around the First World War. Okay. And that was a golden era. Cowboys and all that stuff. First World War, glory, glory. That was the best. That was the best. Well, you realize that the average American died at 50 then, and the child mortality in America was 1 in 5. So it wasn't really a golden age. But anyway, let's be that as a side. What is it? If it was implemented flawlessly, it would be probably, I don't know, you could get away with it. But if it's a bad idea done badly, which is the worst of all possible worlds, you could actually implement this over 4 years. You could just about get away with it without burning the house down. But they pulled the roof in. The roof is coming in, and there's no turning back. And they're certainly not going to say, "Oh, sorry, we got that wrong. Oh no, we're not going to do that anymore." They're not going to do that, are they? They're just not going to do that. They're just going to ride the buffalo herd over the cliff. And that's what they're doing. And everyone said, "Oh no, they don't really mean tariffs. Oh no, they're playing 3D chess. Oh, they're all pulling at the last minute, and everybody will capitulate, and he'll get his way. How clever!" And they
What is
haven't,
it?
have they?
What does the future look like in 20 years? This changing world order.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go in tinfoil hat land if I'm not careful. But there's two things going on. There's a foot race between good news and bad news. And the good news is AI will educate a whole massive cohort of young, brilliant people.
Mm.
And that will take about 10 years. And, in 10 years' time, there'll be a cohort of super brilliant children educated by AI, the likes of which humanity has never seen. And that's the good news. The bad news is, will we get there? And I think we'll get there. But, don't project what we've seen in the last 4 weeks out too far. You will certainly be, terrified. I mean, yes, you could say, oh, they're just smashing it all up at the beginning and put it all back together again. But you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again like that. How is America gonna win back all its reputation after this? How long is that going to take?
Yeah.
How's it going to get back, a friendship? How's Europe ever going to trust them in the next decade? How's anybody going to not be scared to death by a rampaging American administration? And how are they going to think that somehow it won't happen again? It's it's a dark day, and the market. Forget the politics. The market is just going to go. Well, it is in free fall right now. As I said, it was going to go into free fall. The question is 25%, 30%, 50%, or 75%.
Well,
They're
we
the
saw
four
something
numbers.
quite remarkable. China, Japan, and South Korea have started reduced trading barriers between each other and there's a picture of their trade ministers shaking hands. I don't know if you saw that picture. But what
Well, that's
America
their only option, isn't it? Because you can't negotiate with America.
this sounds a lot like pre-World War II, Roosevelt's era when America was isolationist. Remember that? Is that what?
I wasn't there, but I do know of it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
what
very
I
like it.
meant.
I mean, the
Is that what the
the
country is heading towards? Yeah.
The Smoot Hawley, I can't remember the name of the blooming thing. The tariffs after the crash of 29. That was one of the reasons why there was such a depression, because American trade collapsed. They put in the tariffs. American trade, I think, dropped by 70%. You can look it up on Wikipedia to get the full horror of it. And so the reason why countries don't like to do tariffs and why they are free trade, like to be free trade, is the catastrophic potential of tariffs. And America's had its free trade, we'll push all our business your way because they've been attempting to have this hegemony where everybody is linked to the hip to America because they can't afford not to do business with America, and
Yeah.
therefore they can afford to be peaceful and get on with making money and being rich, right? That was the strategy to get China out of being a crazy communist country with the bomb, and it worked. But now America's gone, oh, hold on a minute, everyone's catching up on us. Everyone's catching up. People have got better airports than us. People have got better healthcare than we've got. People are catching up on us. Oh, we can't have that. We've got to be dominant. We've got to be exceptional. We've got to have a big gap between us and them because we're special. Well, if you go round and cripple everybody as the way of making yourself better than them, I think that's going to be not it's not going to work out well. And it isn't working out well. You're seeing it in the market. Market is very rarely wrong about these things. And they've shot themselves. America shot itself in the foot.
How do you feel about Bitcoin? Yesterday, before we spoke, Bitcoin was down with the Nasdaq. Today, it's up 2% when everything else was falling. I wonder if there's other forces kind of pushing Bitcoin and the other cryptos around that have nothing to do with tariffs.
Right now, everything you see in the market will be about the money flow and which way it's going. So if you look at Bitcoin, it won't be because it will probably be because people who are short Bitcoin have to close the short because they're long something else. So they close the long and close the short, and up goes the shorts and down goes the longs. So you'll see things pop, and the reason they'll be popping up is because they were so heavily shorted as the short in a hedge for something that they were very long on. And you'll be seeing lots of dogs kind of going up. You say, oh, it's a terrible day in the market, but this rubbishy company has gone up. Why is that? Well, because a really great company's gone down and they've closed the long and they've closed the short because the whole point of being hedged is to be hedged. And if you start closing your positions, you close both legs, and you'll be seeing a fair amount of that money flow. It's all about the money flow. And when it gets beyond money flow, then things will then tend to right themselves. You'll get a bifurcation between winners and losers. And, that would be my guess on Bitcoin. The only other thing with Bitcoin is, Bitcoin is for flight. So if some people are about to run, whether it's Houthis or whether it's Iranians or whether it's whoever it is that needs to be running, they will buy Bitcoin first. That's how they will go. And so if there's something bad about to happen where certain people will wanting to be getting out of Dodge in a hurry, Bitcoin will pop. So, maybe in a week there'll be some news about something like that happening.
Well, Clem, gold is at 3,100. 30, actually, it's down. 30 is at
It
3,100
was.
2 days ago. Yeah, it was 30.40 now. Oversold, we're overbought, rather overbought at current levels. We're not.
No, I mean it's just again it's all about what's going on in the equity markets because they're not quite the £800 gorilla. The £800 gorilla is treasuries. Okay, so the senior market is bonds, and whatever's going on there will be going on. I guess bonds will be rallying as people run for cover into bonds, and interest rates theoretically will be falling. And you'll be seeing that. So it's all about the interactions of where the money's flowing, right? And everyone is running away from equities and they will run towards bonds. And, there'll be all sorts of carry trades unwinding. There'll be all sorts of stuff moving all over the place. It'll be utter chaos. And the best place really to be, and a little bit of a rookie mistake, and with me loading up on precious metals a couple of days ago, is that, it will be, everything gets hammered by that. But afterwards, it will all the winners and losers will then split up, and I think you'll see that precious metals have got a long way to go. And defense people will start to run, which is not a good sign, really.
I'm just thinking of
And
this possible scenario in light of all this turmoil, this turbulence. Perhaps central banks and governments around the world are going to start stocking up more on gold and perhaps creating their own strategic Bitcoin reserves like the U.S. is doing just to move away from the dollar a little bit. Do you see that happening?
well, uh, yeah, the reason gold is where it is because countries are buying it,
Hmm.
and a lot is being bought by China, because as I keep saying, gold is for war, and you can just see that as global tension rises, countries have to have more gold
Yeah.
because gold is the currency in extremis, so they have to load up on it strategically. So you'll be seeing that.
Okay.
And the big open question is what happens to the dollar now, and what happens to interest rates, and what happens to this fiscal deficit? Because if you impoverish your people by 3% because tariffs gone up, and you impoverish your people because you're sucking 3% of your government spending out of the market, what happens to your fiscal tax catch? Your taxation levels are going to fall, aren't they? So
Right.
it's basically all up in the air, and the simple thing with it, when it all goes up in the air like this, risk assets fall in value. Chaos equals drop in value of risk assets. You can have the most rubbish government that's really, really stable, and you can have a good market because the stability makes risk assets more valuable.
Yes.
Well, if you've got a bunch of geniuses making everything unstable, your risk assets are going to fall, and they're going to fall hard, and that's what you're seeing.
Okay. Clem, let's finish off now. We'll talk about what what you kind of like. I know you're bearish on most things, but
I
well,
mean, I like defense stocks in Europe. They'll do
oh
no
yeah,
wrong.
they've been going up.
Yeah,
Ben
well,
stocks.
everything's been coming down today. So I
Mm.
literally this morning, one of my favorite stocks is defense stock, and I went, I've got to sell you because it's all going down the pan. I'll buy you later when after this is the storm's over. I fell up, and yeah, it fell off the map. Everything's going off the map now. It's just a question.
This whole thing could be a nothing burger, right? They could all roll over and then we wake up next year, springtime next year, and we're talking about no one's talking about war anymore. That could happen, right? No.
That's why it took to the Liberation Day. You've all been liberated from your money. That's why it didn't fall to them because nobody thought he'd go through with it. Or oh no, it won't be that bad. Oh no, it'll be okay. Oh, he doesn't really mean it. Oh, he's playing 3D chess. La 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 la. And he did mean it. And he ain't playing 3D chess. It's very simple. Just get the memo, read it, study it, and then get a chart and draw where you think that line's going and see whether it does go that way. Because if it doesn't, you're wrong, and if it does, you're right.
Yeah.
And there you'll know what's going to happen. It's like playing any sport. You got to keep your eye on the ball. If you take your eye off the ball, you're finished. And this is the time when you really got to keep your eye on the ball. And these guys do mean it. They mean everything they say. They are upending the global economy, and that's just going to be. If it wasn't for the fact that equity prices were so blooming high, and the price values of things in the American market are so extended, it wouldn't necessarily be so terrible. But because of that, the potential of a massive fall in percentage terms is right there. You just take all those wonderful stocks, the Apples, the Nvidias, the Teslas, and go back 2 years and see the price. And then go, oh, that would be bad if it went back 2 years. And of course, I would say, oh, it's only 2 years. It's only gone down to where it was 2 years ago. That's a huge drop. It's a huge, huge drop. And you don't want to be at the bottom crying, do you?
Certainly not, Clem, but thank you for warning us nonetheless. Where can we learn from you? Follow your work?
Well, I've been writing about all this stuff now for quite a long time on Forbes, and over the many years, I've called the tops and the bottoms. See, at the bottom, you don't want to be crying; you want to be buying, and it's better to get out near the top and back in near the bottom than it is
How do
to
you know when
ride it all the
something's
way
at
up and down.
how do you know when something's at the bottom though?
Because certain things happen. Like everybody says, "Yeah, I'm a genius. Yeah, I'm so clever. Oh, I know everything." They confuse a bull market with their brains, and you get $40,000 handbags, and you look at 10 times sales, and people saying that's normal, and you go, "Hold on a minute. How does this $3 trillion stock grow 20% a year for the next 5 years?" And things just start to get. I thought, to be honest with you, David, until these guys came out and blew it all up, they've shot it down. They've shot the market down. Whether they did it on purpose or not. I thought there was going to be a crazy, crazy bubble move. I thought it was going to be a crazy bubble move, and I was ready to watch that unfold. And then they came out and said, "Oh, Russia, you've got to deal with Russia in Europe. Oh, and we've got to deal with Asia, i.e. China. And I went, oh no, they're gonna wreck everything. And that's what made me get out. And they have going to, and it's their plan in a way to wreck everything. We're a revolutionary government. It's a revolution. You know, everybody dies in a revolution.
Mm.
Just read the history of revolutions. It's a very, 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 very bad thing. And if they really mean it, they probably don't have a sense of history.
Do you have any
And if
good?
they get their way, we will have a 75% drop. I think it will be 30%. I will start to sweat the bottom around 30,
Yeah.
but it could go way further than that. And it's going to be 25%. It's already there pretty much. Then it's going to go further because if you look at history, 25% is not uncommon. 25% is what a crash is. Okay. 30%, oh, that's a bit of a, ow. 50%, well, that's a serious crash. They don't come along very often. And the big ones that absolutely, the Godzillas, that's 75%. And
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance we see that, as in like 1 in 3 chance we're going to see between 50 and 75% here. And, that is going to upend everything. I'm sad to say.
Let's maybe follow up in a couple of weeks. Maybe you'll have some good news for us by then. We'll
Well,
see.
you can laugh at me if I'm wrong, and I'll only be
I'm
too
not. No one's
happy.
laughing at you. You've been right, but I'm just
Too
hoping to
often,
get.
I'm afraid.
I'm an optimist at heart. So let's get some good news
Look,
next
if we
time.
get to that 10 years with those kids that are going to come out having been educated by AI,
Yeah.
it's utopia. So, it can happen, and it's already, again, it's like this World War III, this Cold War that started, that's already underway. And these kids being educated by AI, like there's never been an education before, that's already underway. So that's two streams. And I would put my money on the kids. I would put my money on the kids.
There's so many comments on my last video. The only thing being liberated is insanity. I'm being liberated from my money. I'm being anyway.
For
Anyway,
sure.
um,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Clem,
absolutely.
let's put the links down below. We'll follow Clem there. Good to see you again. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Great. Thanks very much, David. And I've got to say to your viewers, please subscribe and like. Give David
Yes.
the support. This is really valuable content. I might be right, I might be wrong, but it's valuable content because your future of your wealth and your prosperity depends on your ability to pass these crazy financial times. And David's bringing this to you. If you don't give him support, you won't see his videos as they come up. Google won't surface them. You've got to like, subscribe, and comment so that he gets the oxygen he needs. So please do that for him.
Thank you so much. Clem is not my manager. He's just a good friend. Thank you.
I'm an investor, honest.
No, no, he's not. I appreciate it. Thank you for that plug. All right, we'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.